War between the land and the sea begins aboard a fishing vessel, where a group of men work through the night. One casually tosses a plastic bottle into the ocean. Moments later, as the crew hauls in their net, an unearthly scream pierces the air. Entangled within the mesh is a humanoid aquatic creature, a Homo aqua, dragging the men into a moment of pure terror. Elsewhere, Barclay Pierre Dupont is jolted awake by an urgent call. He wakes his daughter, Kirby, explaining that there has been an oil spill off the coast of Scotland and that she will need to stay with her mother for a while. During the drive, Barclay tries to reassure her while discussing the unfolding environmental crisis. After dropping Kirby off and briefly speaking with her mother about an upcoming party, Barclay is contacted by Sergeant Hannah Chakri, who informs him that he has been selected to replace Roger Trevithick on a unit operation. Though confused and reluctant, Barclay complies, meeting General Austin Pierce before boarding a military transport, where he is handed classified material to review. During the flight, General Pierce announces their destination, Dragonera Island, near the village of Cala Escondida. Intelligence Officer Pip shows Barclay footage of the captured Homo Aqua. Barclay explains that years earlier he briefly stood in for Roger during an operation, and that clerical error has haunted him ever since. He insists he is not a field officer, only a grade 10 administrator who books transport logistics. Upon arrival, the team undergoes decontamination before being greeted by Colonel Tariq Hashim, who reveals the body of a slain creature once dismissed online as a hoax. Pierce explains the beings were once called sea devils, but are now designated Homo aqua. Hannah theorizes that the species evolved from ancient temnospondylus, more accurately termed Homo spondyle erectus. Examination reveals a pearl embedded in the creature's throat, a natural formation composed of aragonite and calcite, believed to be placed at birth. Pierce suggests it should be returned, acknowledging the symbolic importance of the artifact. As scans continue, Barclay silently crosses himself in respect for the dead being. Outside, Pierce speculates that underwater avalanches in 2020 may have disturbed the creature's hibernation. With Earth largely covered in water, he fears humanity is facing an awakening rival. UNIT sends out a translation pulse, a simple attempt at communication. Later, Barclay receives a message from Barbara regarding Kirby's schooling, reminding him of his fragile balance between family and duty. Nearby, tragedy strikes as a woman is pulled beneath the water by unseen forces. A Homo Aqua emerges, retrieving her lifeless body. Soon after, the team discovers that 2 soldiers are missing, their radios echoing eerily from beneath the ground. Digging reveals human remains, leaving the group shaken. Pierce apologizes to Barclay, who insists he doesn't belong there. Pierce counters that history often selects unlikely participants. Hannah explains that UNIT exists to face alien threats, but Homo Aqua are not aliens. They are Earth's original inhabitants, sealed underground by natural shifts. Proof of their existence has surfaced before but was buried to preserve human dominance. Now, it seems the species wants the planet back. A positive sighting leads to direct contact. Using translation technology, Pierce attempts diplomacy. The Homo Aqua accuse humanity of murder. Pierce argues for peace, but the creatures reject negotiation with individuals. They demand to address all of humanity. Across the globe, Homo Aqua emerge simultaneously, triggering worldwide panic. An official summit is arranged at Imperial House, with a waterway constructed to accommodate the aquatic delegates. A condition demanded by the Homo Aqua themselves. At home, Barclay downplays his role despite tension with Barbara. Kirby, ever curious, explains that Homo simply means same, not what tabloids suggest. Barclay attends the summit where UNIT Commander Kate Lethbridge Stewart announces that UNIT will represent Earth. As dignitaries gather, unexpected aquatic species arrive alongside Homo Aqua, including the massive Piscimorpha grandis. Trust becomes the only option. Among the delegates is Salt, a commanding Homo Aqua figure who speaks without translation. She presents a devastating truth. Her unborn children were poisoned by humanity's pollution. She requests Barclay specifically, having witnessed his silent act of respect toward the dead creature. Recognizing his compassion, Salt names him as humanity's representative. Reluctant but resolute, Barclay steps forward, unknowingly becoming the bridge between land and sea. As he turns to leave, his eyes meet Salt's across the room, a moment of unspoken recognition that confirms his role is far from over. Elsewhere, Colonel Christopher Ibrahim briefs Unit Commander Kate on Barclay's background, a grade 10 logistics officer, divorced, with a teenage daughter named Kirby. Kate seeks Barclay out and introduces herself, only for him to casually note that he books her taxis. She admits she doesn't understand why Salt chose him from nearly 8 billion humans. Barclay insists he has no connection to Homo Aqua, apart from a goldfish named Simon. Kate warns him that UNIT has already dissected every detail of his life. While Barclay is questioned, armed officers collect Kirby from school and detain Barbara at their flat. At headquarters, Barclay fiercely defends his family, swearing he never wanted this role. Despite his fear, he agrees to help, insisting Kate needs him just as much as he needs UNIT. News breaks that H2O ambassador Sir Jonathan Hines has been dismissed. Prime Minister Harry Shaw pressures Kate to replace Barclay, fearing political fallout if war erupts. He urges her to convince Salt to accept Hines instead. Kate reluctantly approaches Salt, proposing the committee's decision. Salt refuses outright, demanding to speak to Barclay privately. When Barclay approaches, Salt greets him simply and asks his name. She invites him to call her Salt and explains that she chose him not for his credentials, but for his humanity. She warns that his leaders will try to remove him and asks what he truly wants. Barclay admits he is nobody, and that perhaps it's time nobodies had a voice. Salt accepts him as ambassador and threatens to end talks if he does not present himself the following day. Barclay is escorted under armed guard, convinced he may be executed. Kate reassures him, admitting UNIT wants peace and needs his help. At the diplomatic hotel, Barclay is reunited with Kirby, who is thrilled by his sudden fame. Barbara, however, is alarmed. As tensions rise, scientists analyze Homo Aqua remains while secret deals unfold. A stolen tissue sample is traded to industrialist Keith Spears, who plans to protect his corporate interests even if it means war. Simulations predict global economic collapse should Homo Aqua seize control of the oceans. When Barclay's identity leaks to the press, the hotel is besieged by reporters. Kate authorizes limited media access, banning those who undermine UNIT. At the next summit, Barclay enters the chamber as water floods in and Salt emerges once more. Following a script, Barclay apologizes for the death of her children. She asks him to drink polluted river water to prove understanding. Scientific reports warn it is lethal. Barclay refuses, explaining the contamination in plain language. Removing his earpiece, he abandons diplomacy and speaks honestly. Humanity was careless, greedy, and ignorant. The damage was deliberate, and responsibility belongs to everyone. Salt listens and accepts his words. Outside, Salt demonstrates Homo Aqua's response. Pollution rains down upon cities as plastic and waste are returned to the surface world. Panic erupts. Barclay scrambles to protect his family as chaos unfolds. Though framed as a cleanup, the act is interpreted by many as an act of war. Political extremists call for armed resistance. At the next meeting, Barclay confronts Salt. He warns that fear will only breed violence. Salt insists the war began long ago when humans poisoned the sea. She lays out their demands. All pollution must cease immediately. Waterways belong to Homo Aqua, and human transport across water will be forbidden. When humans protest, Salt silences them. They will speak only through Barclay. Salt reveals a final condition. The next summit will take place beneath the Atlantic Ocean, at the Romanche Trench, over 25,000 feet below the surface, deeper than any human has safely traveled. The demand is clear. If humans seek equality, they must meet Homo Aqua on their terms. Despite frantic warnings, Barclay agrees. Next, we see a naval Blackport, where General Austin Pierce welcomes Barclay and the rest of the delegation. They are briefed on the unprecedented mission ahead, a descent to the Romanche Trench for a face-to-face meeting with Homo Aqua, deeper than any human expedition in history. The submersible, escorted by warships, is currently stationed on a launch vessel. Barclay, Pierce, Captain Louise Mackey, Min So, Ravi Singh, and Ted Campbell will make the journey. Barbara confronts Barclay about the risks, knowing that once the descent begins, Homo Aqua will take control and the team will be completely alone. At the training facility, Pierce reminds Barclay to sign his indemnity forms and finalize his will. Before departure, Barclay speaks with Barbara and Kirby. Kirby breaks down, upset by cruel online abuse directed at her father. Barclay finally admits his fear, collapsing into tears as Barbara and Kirby comfort him. During transit, nerves begin to show. Ravi openly doubts he's built for this, while Ted sees opportunity, convinced the mission will change their lives. Ted reveals a diplomatic gift meant to show humans' perspective of the world. As the submersible is lowered into the ocean, tension spikes. The vessel descends deeper into crushing darkness. When Ted panics over moisture inside the cabin, Barclay reassures him it's only condensation. Above the surface, political pressure mounts. Kate insists UNIT must have a voice in emergency talks. General Oscar Gunsberg argues that maritime trade is essential to global stability and reveals that the U.S. is preparing sonic weapons capable of disorienting Homo Aqua. Kate pushes back, questioning why weapons are even being discussed. Sir Keith Spears and General Duselier argue peace is already lost, accusing UNIT of weakness. Kate challenges Spears' presence, pointing out his companies still pollute waterways, while Shaw admits industry power is unavoidable. As the submersible continues its descent, fear turns personal. Ravi worries they will be taken hostage. Barclay insists he will not let his daughter grow up during a war. Suddenly, readings stop making sense. The pressure on the hull stabilizes, as if they are no longer underwater. The vessel is dragged sideways. Systems fail. Panic spreads. The hatch finally opens. Pierce and Barclay step out first into an impossible environment. Breathable air, warm temperature, perfect atmospheric pressure. One by one, the others follow. Salt emerges and welcomes them, explaining they are deeper than any human has ever been, and that the environment has been prepared for them. She asks Barclay if he trusts her. When he says yes, she removes his helmet. Most follow suit. Salt explains that Homo Aqua are nomadic, living alongside titans, dolphins, and other deep-sea beings. Alone together, Barclay confesses that he feels as if he's known her forever. Salt understands. She tells him human thoughts are loud, emotional, impossible for her people not to hear. She believes together they could change everything. Their moment is cut short as Pierce checks on Barclay and escorts the group deeper into Homo Aqua territory. Back on land, Kate is exhausted and shaken. Christopher Ibrahim urges her to rest, warning that UNIT may soon be shut out entirely. Shirley brings troubling intelligence from Cobra meetings, a word repeatedly surfacing, severance. Before Kate can process it, gunfire erupts. Christopher throws himself in front of her and is shot. In the depths, Ted presents the diplomatic globe to Salt, then coldly declares her war already lost. At the same moment, chaos breaks out above. As Kate rushes to Christopher's aid, another shot rings out. Below, Barclay knocks the globe from Ted's hands, realizing too late that the mission has been compromised. Globe detonates instantly, unleashing a violent underwater explosion. Above ground, Kate Lethbridge Stewart narrowly dodges a sniper's bullet and orders Shirley Bingham to send immediate backup, identifying India House as the shooter's position. Corporal Jane Hart reports the worst. The delegates are dead. Shirley orders red alert across all stations as armed police neutralize the suspect. His identity remains unknown. News breaks of the explosion at the underwater diplomatic site. Barbara and Kirby watch in horror as reports claim the Homo Aqua ambassador has taken responsibility. In a broadcast, Salt addresses humanity directly, declaring the diplomats dead and warning that anyone entering their waters will suffer the same fate. Some question whether the footage is a deepfake. Salt brings Barclay safely back to the surface. Shaken, Barclay tells Shirley that Ted triggered the explosion and that the others were crushed instantly. He insists they knew they were going to die. Kate arrives and asks how he survived. Barclay isn't sure, only that Salt held him. He denies the broadcast's authenticity, but Kate explains that the world now sees Salt as a prisoner of war. She is transferred into an asset container under guard. As names of the dead are released, Kate struggles with guilt and grief. The assassin is identified as Miklos Konstantinos, a former Hellenic army officer turned mercenary. Evidence links him to the Institute of Los Clementi, a billionaire-funded think tank driven by fear that Homo Aqua will replace humanity. Ted Campbell, dying from terminal cancer, sacrificed himself willingly. The Prime Minister learns that Sir Keith Spears funded the institute and that it is connected to Severance. Gunsberg receives authorization to act discreetly. Shortly after, an assassin murders Spears in his home. At Unit Tower, Barclay is told Salt will be looked after. He doubts it. A former colleague bluntly tells him Salt will be executed. Desperate, Barclay takes the keys to the transport vehicle holding her. Ignoring Hana's warnings and surrounded by armed officers, he reverses the truck into the river. The container breaks open. Salt escapes into the water, pulling Barclay in with her before vanishing. Kate is stunned. Barbara and Kirby learn what Barclay has done. As alarms sound, 8 Homo Aqua and a new life form arrive. Kate steps forward as ambassador. The warrior Tide demands answers, accusing humans of turning tragedy into escalation. Kate removes her earpiece and speaks honestly, admitting humanity has no excuse. Tide accepts her response, but reveals Salt's betrayal. By saving Barclay, Salt allowed her people to die. Her punishment awaits beneath the sea. When Salt and Barclay emerge together, Tide declares her loss to Aquakind and announces the war has begun. He introduces a third ambassador, Rust, a living weapon capable of corroding cities and machines. Negotiations are over. Humans are given 5 years to remake their world and surrender all waters. Earth itself must be renamed. Behind the scenes, Gunsberg pushes Severance forward, believing Salt can be used to end the war if captured. Meanwhile, Barclay and Salt hide in the city. She explains that her kiss saved his life and speaks of her world, of spawning in thousands, of devotion to the water, and of the loneliness she now faces. Returning to the sea would mean exile, not execution. Barclay understands. They share an intimate moment as helicopters close in. Kate mourns at Christopher's memorial, while intelligence confirms Salt's confession was a deepfake tied to Los Clemente. Tracking data reveals Barclay's planned rendezvous at Festival Bridge. Kate sends Hannah, but Gunsberg intercepts the operation. On the bridge, law enforcement closes in. Barbara urges Barclay and Salt to run. Barclay is detained. Gunsberg orders Salt seized, alive or dead. Kate demands he stand down. He refuses. Barclay breaks free long enough to scream for Salt to run. She unleashes a piercing screech that freezes everyone in place, then dives into the river. Barclay shouts after her, promising he will find her, and that she will never swim alone again. Next, we see Homo Aqua leader Tide emerging from the ocean at dawn. Standing at the shoreline, he blows a conch shell, its sound echoing across the city. Dogs everywhere suddenly bolt toward the sea. Moments later, more Homo Aqua rise from the water, stretching a massive net between them. At a tense diplomatic meeting, Sir Jonathan Hines accuses Aquakind of eating domesticated dogs. Tide calmly responds that his people eat fish, their fish, whom they consider family. When Hines angrily demands they stop, Tide counters that humans have already crossed that line. The Vietnam ambassador is deeply offended by Hines's language. Kate Lethbridge Stewart senses the talks are a distraction and briefly imagines the late Colonel Ibrahim beside her. During therapy, Kate admits to her psychiatrist Elizabeth that these visions make her happy, even though she knows Ibrahim is dead. She attributes them to PTSD and asks to double her paroxetine dose. Elizabeth initially refuses, citing protocol, but Kate threatens to expose Elizabeth's affair and pregnancy. Elizabeth reluctantly writes the prescription. Police evacuate beaches across the country. Kate takes a call about Barclay Pierre Dupont's psychiatric evaluation while Shirley Bingham watches remotely. During testing, Barclay complains of pain, ringing noises, and rashes. Dr. Banerjee warns him that nothing survives 8 kilometers beneath the sea. Barclay lashes out about his father and admits he feels lost now that she is gone, the force that made him special. Outside, crowds cheer him as guards escort him into an evacuated hotel that feels more like a prison. Every meal must be scanned. At the lab later, Barclay confesses that water is the only place he feels calm. Back at headquarters, Sergeant Hannah Chakri flags Severance as a major concern. Professor Inko Bello storms in with alarming news. While Aquakind distracted world leaders, they were secretly accelerating ice melt. Satellite images reveal catastrophic losses in Antarctica. Ice shelves that should have taken decades to collapse vanished in hours. If all ice melts, Bello warns, sea levels will rise dramatically and carbon will flood the atmosphere. Aquakind, he insists, has already won. Aquakind spokesperson Kind appears on a live broadcast, claiming they are merely restoring balance. Humans, he says, started this war before Aquakind ever woke. Watching from his hotel, Barclay listens as Kind declares that within 5 years, all water will be free, and humanity cleansed. Barclay is briefly escorted out to a pub where Kirby and Barbara Pierre Dupont confront him. Barbara accuses him of being useless and obsessed with Salt. Overcome, Barclay admits he sneaks out nightly to the coast, calling for Salt in the water. She never answers. He breaks down, and his family consoles him. Meanwhile, Generals Dusselier and Gunsberg review footage of Barclay's nighttime rituals. Dusselier suspects human interference in Aquakind communications, but insists her name stay off the record. Kate later confronts Prime Minister Harry Shaw about Severance. He refuses to act. That night, a hotel guard switches Barclay's scanner. A hazmat team sedates him and injects something unseen. By morning, Barclay races to the sea and calls for Salt. She finally appears. They reunite and kiss. Salt admits she knew about the ice melt, but not the deadly tides. She tells Barclay he can still help humanity by asking Aquakind for a cord. Barclay agrees. Using Barclay's eye tracking, Steve Chesney secretly embeds the word accord into Aquakind's daily transmissions. Days later, the seas go eerily calm. Then reports emerge. Homo Aqua bodies washing ashore across Spain and beyond. Aquakind is dying. Doctors determine a virus blocked their gills. Kate realizes the truth. Severance was the weapon, and it was human-made. 90% of Aquakind are dead. A deep Aquanese signal arrives, an SOS. Salt may be alive. At Empress Hall, Salt appears, one of only 10 survivors. She describes the virus as fire in the water, something designed, not accidental. She warns that Aquakind has hidden its greatest technologies deep where humans will never reach. As she speaks, the Prime Minister and military leaders abruptly drown as water pours from their mouths. Kate proposes a final offer: land for Aquakind, protected from pollution and harm. Salt agrees, on the condition it be called what it truly is, a hunting ground. As tension erupts and glass shatters, Hana pulls Barkley away. Outside, Barkley tells reporters humanity has won the war. Later, overwhelmed by protesters, he escapes to the sea. Salt appears once more. They kiss, and Barkley dives beneath the waves with her. As Kate watches, it appears Barkley now has gills.